All right. So we have gone live. It is Wednesday, May 25th, about a minute shy of 12:30, and we are live at the Awake Illinois Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And joining us today is Judge Noverini. Hi, Judge John.
Hey, Shannon, how are you?
Great. Thank you for sharing your time with the Illinois residents who are paying attention to the upcoming primary. And you are running for Illinois Supreme Court. So the topic of our conversation is, why is it so important? And I look forward to hearing your perspectives on why people should really pay attention to candidates running for Supreme Court. But first, I just want to say again, thank you and welcome. And thank you for being an important part of the legal process here in Illinois. I'd like to start, Judge, with just asking for you to share a little bit about yourself, your background, your legal experience, and just share some of your background with us.
Sure. Thank you, Shannon. My name is John Noverini, running for Illinois Supreme Court. I've been in the legal profession for going on 35 years. I've been a circuit court trial judge for the past 14 years. And during my tenure as a circuit court trial judge, I've served as the presiding judge of the family law division, presiding judge of the criminal law division, where during my time as a criminal law trial judge, I presided over nearly 100 criminal jury trials. I've also been presiding judge of the probate court, the guardianship court, the traffic court, and the mental health courts. Prior to going on the bench, I spent 25 years in the private sector, experience in business, banking, education. Spent 14 years teaching at Judson University, taught law, ethics, business, and government. Educationally, I'm a graduate of the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, also my master's degree in history from Northeastern Illinois University, and my law degree from IIT Chicago-Kent College of Law. I like to describe myself politically as a non-establishment, independent, grassroots conservative. And I learned what conservatism is as a young man. Ronald Reagan ran for president in 1980, and it was simple. He presented what I believe conservatism is, and I remember him saying over and over and over again during the campaign, smaller, limited government, lower taxes, and less regulation. And that's pretty much in a nutshell what conservatism is. In Illinois, we have the complete opposite. We've got ever expanding government, high taxes, and overburdening regulation.
Right.
Why is this election important? We go back to the year 1964. I was actually alive in 1964. I was just a kid, a young child. But that's how long the Democrats have controlled the Illinois Supreme Court, since 1964.
Wow.
So we have an opportunity in this cycle to change that. We got the second and third judicial districts are open. And if we could switch the second and third district to, I say Republican, but I'm hoping conservative, we could take a majority on the Illinois Supreme Court. I mean, since 1964, the Democrats have either had a 4-3 majority or a 5-2 majority. If we could take the second and third judicial districts this cycle, we could have the Republicans or the conservatives could have a 4-3 majority, which would be big in Illinois.
Wow. All right, that's really important information. Since 1964, a Democrat ruled Supreme Court in Illinois.
Correct.
So you touched on your past experience. It sounds like you really phoned it in, Judge. Just kidding. You're very accomplished, so that's impressive. Well done. So what makes your experience with public service conservative versus Democrat, or conservative versus socialist? Just speak a little bit about that.
Sure. Politically and public service wise, I've served as a Republican precinct committeeman for 12 years, elected 6 times, beginning in 1996 through 2007. Served on, and this is important for people. You need to get on the school boards. You need to become precinct committeeman. You need to get on the library boards, whatever local boards you can get on. Start there and get in these boards, because that's how we ended up in this mess that we're in. Conservatives aren't on these boards. We got liberals on these boards, and look what that not only they control the Supreme Court, the House, the Senate, and the executive branch, the Democrats. Worst of all, they control education.
Right.
That's the worst.
Right.
But so start getting involved in the community on these boards. So I served 12 years as a Republican precinct committeeman, elected twice as chairman of the Dundee Township Republican Party, and then got elected to the Village of Carpentersville board, which is nonpartisan, and then was elected twice as a Republican to the Kane County board.
Okay.
And then in 2008, the opportunity came along to run for a circuit court trial judge. I was elected in 2008, and then I was retained in 2014, and then again retained in 2020.
Amazing. And I think you make a good point about having to get involved in your local politics, right? And on the school boards, the municipal boards. I had a very dramatic encounter with my city, I guess you could say, some of them socialists, some of them liberals. I was trying to run for a volunteer non-paid role on our special events committee here in Naperville, and they came out and they smeared. They do not want conservatives on these boards, and they attack. So they feel very threatened when they see conservatives get involved, but it's really important. And Awake Illinois has 30 chapters statewide, so we do encourage and empower people to get involved. And we, try and give people the resources that will allow them to elevate their voices and be involved community members. So thank you, Judge, for your public service in your community. It's important. I think it's really fascinating that you have your pilot's license and you fly. And so tell us a little bit about that and how that perhaps your experience as a pilot helps your judgment when you're on the bench.
Well, as a kid, I grew up. Apollo 11 was the first man on the moon,
right.
And I was 11 years old at the time. That was 1969, and to me as a kid, that was like unbelievable. I mean, it's a man walking on the moon, and so that piqued my interest in aviation. I got out of high school. I started taking flying lessons. I'll never forget the lesson that the instructor was $7 an hour at the time, and
wow.
the airplane was $13 an hour. So it was a total of $20 an hour. And I was 19 years old, making like $2.25 an hour. And I remember thinking, how am I going to come up with $20 an hour to pay for these lessons? I did it over a year, and it took me a little longer because I'd work and then fly and work and then fly. And so it took me like a year and a half, got my pilot's license. And that's what I wanted to do. After college, I mentioned I went to Moody Bible Institute undergrad. After Moody, I tried joining the Air Force. But my eyesight was terrible. I had the LASIK done in the 90s, which fixed my eyesight, but by then it was too late.
Right.
So the Air Force said, we'll take you, but you won't get anywhere near an airplane.
Right.
I wanted to fly. So I had to end up settling for the judge thing. Couldn't be the pilot. But I did go on. I've flown for the past 40 years. I've got my instrument rating, my commercial pilot's rating, my multi-engine rating. I mean, I just love to fly. And what it does for me, when I'm up there flying, everything else kind of goes away. I'm not thinking about cases or what's going on at the courthouse. So I just love it. When it's hard to explain it, but when you talk to pilots, they'll tell you it's just something about flying. And you can't be away from it for very long. You just got to get back up there and fly. So
for you, it's almost meditative then, or a Zen experience for you. Whereas I'd be terrified, and it would be the antithesis of Zen. So good for you.
No,
do you have a favorite aircraft that you either fly or that you admire?
Well, I love any airplane I fly. I love flying.
Okay.
Most of my time is in Piper Arrows, Piper Archers, the Diamond Twin Star. So anything I can get my hands on to fly, I'll fly.
Very cool.
Or if anybody has an airplane and wants to go flying, just call me. I'm happy to go out.
That's awesome. The word gerrymandering, we hear it a lot in the news. We've heard it, at the federal level. Can you educate us on what gerrymandering, what that term means, and the impact it could have in Illinois?
All right, that's a very good question. In Illinois, 2nd Judicial District, which is what I'm in, and currently consists of Lake, McHenry, Kane, Kendall, and DeKalb counties. That's the 2nd Judicial District. Prior to 2007, prior to 2021, last year, the Democrats came in. The 2nd Judicial District has historically been a Republican seat.
Okay.
Just kind of a background here. The Illinois Supreme Court has 7 justices on it. okay, the U.S. Supreme Court has 9. The Illinois Supreme Court has 7. All right. And then Illinois is broken up into 5 judicial districts. The first district is Cook County, and you get 3 judges, because it's so big, Cook County, you get 3 judges or justices that will sit on the Supreme Court from Cook County.
Okay.
So right off the bat, you got 3 Democrats, because you're not going to get a Republican elected out of Cook County.
Okay.
Right. Then the second judicial district, which prior to the Democrats, in my opinion, gerrymandered last year, what used to go from Lake Michigan, northern Kane County, all the way out to Iowa.
Okay.
Right. There was like 13 counties it covered.
Okay.
Democrats came in last year because they knew this was coming up. They want to make sure they hang on to the Illinois Supreme Court. This is big for them.
Sure.
So what they did, they took everything west of McHenry County out of the second judicial district all the way out to Iowa, which are primarily Republican.
Conservative, yeah. Okay.
Now, what used to be like a 60-40 Republican district is now probably 54-46 Democrat. They probably have probably 8, it's probably plus 8 Democrat, this district. Again, it's Lake, McHenry, Kane, Kendall, DeKalb. So that's what they do. They'll gerrymander districts so that it favors the Democrat. Because they control the Illinois House, the Senate, and the executive. So they pass these districts, and there's nothing the Republicans can do about it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, this happened. They're doing this. They've done this in Kane County, and this is what when I say this gerrymandering leads to packing of the court. What they did in 2007, and I'll give you full disclosure here. I was chairman of the Dundee Township Republican Party I was elected in 2004, and reelected chairman of the Dundee Township Republican Party in 2006. The Democrats came into Kane County because they couldn't get, at that time, they could not get Democrats elected to judgeships in Kane County because in 2007 it was still pretty Republican, Kane County.
Sure.
So they came into Kane County. At the same time, they went into Lake County, and they created within the circuit. I'm in the 16th Judicial Circuit. They came into the circuit, the 16th Judicial Circuit, and created what they called sub-circuits. So little circuits within the circuit. And they gerrymandered me into a sub-circuit that is a Democrat. A Republican couldn't win. So I sat down with my conservative precinct committeeman, and we decided that I would resign as chairman of the Dundee Township Republican Party and run as a Democrat. And that's what I did. I ran as a conservative Democrat in 2008. And back then, you could still run as a conservative. Today, there's no such thing as a conservative Democrat. The Democratic Party has gone so far to the left.
Sure.
And I've talked to a lot of Democrats, and they're either coming over to the Republican Party or they're independents now.
Right. They're orphaned. There are a lot of political orphans in the state of Illinois because they don't want to be socialists.
A lot of independents, right?
Yeah.
But I've always been a conservative. I've my conservative values and principles have never been compromised.
Right.
So then elected in 2008 as a Democrat, a conservative, but then retained in 2014, which is nonpartisan, then retained again in 2020 as nonpartisan.
Good for you.
So what they're doing, they're gerrymandering these districts so that they say they want more diversity on the bench, but it's really to elect more Democrats.
Right.
So now they're electing Democrats in Lake County. They're electing Democrats in Kane County. They did this in Winnebago County, and they just start doing it in DuPage County. So they've created these sub-circuits. You should be aware of that. I don't know if you're aware of that, but in DuPage County, they created these sub-circuits, and it's, again, to elect more Democrats to the bench. I mean, as I mentioned, they control the Illinois Supreme Court. They control the circuit and appellate courts in Cook County. And now they're coming after the circuit and appellate courts in the collar counties. So
when you say that the sub-circuits are getting, they're getting gerrymandered, so that's the legislature.
Yeah, that's the legislature. They're creating these sub-circuits so that only a Democrat can win them.
Right. And so I think it's important, that this is all connected, right? Who you vote for on the ballot, your legislators are the ones affecting who could potentially be elected to the Supreme Court.
Oh, definitely, because the circuit court and the appellate court is really the training ground for the Supreme Court.
Right, right. So I think it's important for everybody to understand that voting is very important because of the ramifications it has, the influence that it has. So pay attention to your legislators too when you go to vote, because they're looking for that one party rule to remain in effect.
Right, and it's going to be. I mean, it's going to take a couple cycles to. If we could take the Supreme Court, that's the first step. If we get control of the Supreme Court, because the Republicans are a super minority. They can't even stop a veto. All right. They can't even override a veto in Springfield.
Right.
So in this cycle, we're going to wake up on November 9th, and it's going to be a Democrat House. It's going to be a Democrat Senate.
Right.
I don't know about governor. It depends who we pick for governor.
Sure.
Primary.
I think you're right. And so I know you can't comment, but just to give people this disclaimer, when anybody's running for judgeship, they have to be careful, right, Judge, on how you comment in certain cases, because you have to always maintain fair and impartial consideration for the cases that come before you. I paid attention to the Supreme Court this past year because I was a plaintiff on the Tom DeVore lawsuit, as were 700 other parents fighting for due process for their kids. And when the TRO came down, and then it went to the appellate court, and then the governor appealed it again and went to the Supreme Court, there were a lot of parents who were, for the first time, thinking about or even looking at the Supreme Court, and our case was in their hands, and they ended up ruling and calling it moot. What types of cases, I guess, do you think in recent years have been really important in Illinois that have gone to the Supreme Court? Can you speak to that?
Well, you'll see on these big cases, the important cases, 4-3, 4-3, 4-3.
Okay.
And it's the conservatives in the minority, and basically the liberal judges or the Democratic judges in the majority. The question you really need to ask judicial candidates.
Yeah.
What is your judicial philosophy?
Okay,
How do you view the Constitution?
Let's hear it. Share it.
Oh, I'm an originalist. I do not believe that our Constitution is a living and breathing document that changes with the culture.
Okay.
If you believe that, then the Constitution renders it meaningless.
Sure.
It means whatever you want it to mean. I believe you interpret the Constitution the way the founding fathers drafted it and wrote it. You read it, you look at it, and you read it, and you follow the law.
Right.
That's what an originalist does. They follow the law. They don't legislate from the bench, and you should not be a judicial activist. That's what we have legislators for.
Right.
I've
never heard that phrase before, or that term, originalist. So I just wrote it down. That's interesting.
Oh. All right. Well, Anton Scalia was an originalist.
Okay.
A good example of an originalist.
Okay. I'm looking at the chat to see if there are any questions. Feel free. I think Peace and Grace said there might be some questions that she had. She actually asked, what is justice?
Good question.
Pretty broad, huh?
That's a good question. Justice, I say, you follow the law. So I approach cases. I'll get briefs. I'll read the briefs. Lawyers will come in. They'll argue their case. I'll listen to one side. Let me tell you, lawyers are, for the most part, smart people. I'll listen to one lawyer and say, "Oh, that sounds pretty good." Maybe that's all. Then I'll listen to the other side and say, "Well, that sounds pretty good." But then you hold up their arguments and their version of what they think the law is to the actual law, the statute, or the Constitution, and you make a decision. That's what makes a good judge. I've been on the bench 14 years. I've seen good judges, and I've seen some not so good judges. Hate to say it, but nobody's perfect. But for me, a good judge is somebody that actively listens, not a good listener, but actively listens. Sometimes you got to listen to what's not said. You have to be willing to admit that you don't know everything. You got to be willing to work hard and do some research sometimes. You have to have a good demeanor, treat people with dignity and respect. And then finally, the fourth thing is you have to make a decision. I've seen judges struggle with making decisions. They take things under advisement, and I see a stack of files on their desk. That's not justice. You need to make a decision so that people can move on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that answer. That's really, dignity and respect. Some could argue that that's sort of lacking in our society right now, along with active listening. It's like post, delete, react, but to be an active listener is incredibly important when you are determining justice in a court of law.
Right. And you got to be impartial, listen to both sides. I think that's part of what helped me is my training in the private. A lot of judges, they spend their entire careers in government. They either come in through their felony, they're the prosecutors, and then they get on the bench. And their my 25 years, I was in the private sector. I was in banking and business. I learned what customer service is. You treat people with respect, you treat people with dignity, and you're fair with them. Mm-hmm. So I think that was pounded into me as a banker. So I think that's helped me in my time on the bench. I really do.
That's great. So the Illinois State Bar Association, are you able to share why you decided not to complete the questionnaire?
Yeah. number of reasons. The first is that the questions were, I thought, a little woke. Illinois State Bar Association is a left-leaning organization. I mean, it's a group that represents primarily trial attorneys. What have you done in your community, in your courtroom, to promote or to help the LGBTQ community? And listed a whole bunch of other. If somebody walks into my courtroom, I don't care who they are. Everybody gets treated fairly. They get treated the same. That's called, that's how you treat people. I mean, justice is supposed to be blind. So I didn't care for their questions. And then the other thing, there are a couple of things. The second thing was, this is an organization that represents attorneys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Justices on the Illinois Supreme Court, they regulate attorneys, they set standards of practice for attorneys, and they discipline attorneys. And for a judge to go to the ISBA and seek their recommendation, their rating, or their endorsement, to me is a clear conflict of interest.
Yeah.
I'd say it borders on being unethical.
Right.
I mean, how can you not see the conflict of interest there?
Sure.
And the third thing that bothered me was, he said, if you don't answer our questions, Judge, which if they said it to me in court, I would hold them in contempt and lock them up. If you don't answer our questions, Judge, we're going to give you a not recommended rating. And that's what the left does. They threaten, they intimidate, they bully.
They do.
And then if you don't give in to their threats, intimidation, or bullying, they try to cancel you. That's what the left does. We're going to cancel you. We're going to give you a not recommended rating.
Don't get me started.
I would accept their not recommended rating, and I'd be suspect of anybody that got a recommended or a highly recommended rating from the Illinois State Bar Association, because it's an organization that represents attorneys, and attorneys have a vested interest in who's sitting on the Illinois Supreme Court. Again, this is our fifth campaign, Shannon. I've never been appointed by the establishment insiders, always elected by the people. So to me, I'm an outsider. I'm non-establishment, independent, grassroots conservative. That's
Good
who I
for
am.
you. That's beautiful. And that takes courage. It really does, because you have to really go it on your own. And so you've been successful. It's served you well so far, it sounds like. So I identify with that MO myself.
Excellent. That's very good.
Yeah. So our tagline actually with Awake Illinois is, we're Awake Illinois and you can't cancel us, because of how cancel culture has just permeated, particularly for conservatives or people who aren't establishment. And that goes on both sides of the political spectrum. So you're absolutely right about that. So tell me what it's like to be a candidate for the Supreme Court. I know a lot of people are helping legislators, the governors, attorney general, but what's it like being a candidate for the Illinois Supreme Court?
This, like I said, this is our fifth campaign, our fifth race that we've run. I've never lost an election. It's you have good days and you have bad days. You get good news sometimes and bad news. And I've met some good people during this campaign, and I've met some crazy people too.
Well, it's America, right? You're free to be crazy. You're free to be true to yourself. And so, yeah.
Right. But it can be grueling, because I do, unlike, you're running for president or the Senate or Congress or a state rep, these guys, they don't have to work 8:30 to 4:30.
Right.
I still work a regular day. This week, actually, I took off work. It was my birthday earlier in the week, so I always take off my birthday week.
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much. So it's been a little bit easier, because I've been able to, sleep in a little bit. But this morning I had a 9 o'clock in Rosemont. I have your interview today. I got another interview at 3 o'clock, and I got to be in Oak Brook at 5 o'clock. So it's just one thing after another. But when you're working from 8:30 to 4:30, you get home, I grab a sandwich, and then I head out to a meeting. And I get home 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I try to get to bed by 10:30, and then, do it all over again. But, I knew this going in. It's not like I didn't expect what was going in. The other thing is, we do have a lot of people helping us. I mean, that drives me to work even harder, because I know so many people out there putting up signs, knocking on doors, making phone calls. They're working hard. And as long as I feel, I haven't watched TV since probably December. I haven't watched it once. On Saturdays, I spend with my dad. So I will sit there and I'll watch a ball game with him.
How old is your dad?
93.
Wow. You have longevity.
Yeah, he goes to Compass, and that's why I take him to Compass Church on Saturday.
I love this. And so this is a good question here from Kimberly G. How does your faith help you on the bench?
Oh, tremendously. I pray every day before I go into court, I pray for wisdom. I pray for godly wisdom. There's a difference. I pray for godly wisdom. And then I remind myself that, it's my job. It's actually my job as a judge to preserve, defend, and protect our Constitution, our rights, our liberties. But my faith has played an important role in my entire life. As I mentioned, I graduated of Moody Bible Institute. In prayer, people pray for me. That's important as well. But I don't know how people do it without their faith, to be honest with you.
I believe it. Well, when you've got really hard cases that come before you, I can see that for sure.
Right.
And the heart that you have to have, and the.
Yeah, and then you can't emphasize enough reading of the scripture. Read your Bible every day too.
Do you have a favorite Bible verse or Bible story?
John 3:16 is always a good one for me.
3:16, yeah.
God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. That's always been a great one for me.
Very good, very good. So I'm going to show in the stream here. Let me move it over so people can see it a little bit better. There we go. So your website is noverini.com, and there's you right in the office where you are right now, right, with Abe Lincoln behind you. So exactly. This has all of your background, your experience, your education, your public service, so people can go here to learn more about your campaign, to subscribe, to donate, volunteer. Do you want to just close it out with a final thought on, what your intentions are to be a candidate for Supreme Court and if elected?
Yeah, no, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to vote. Early mail-in voting has already started.
Yep.
As of May 19th. And that's another whole issue, early voting or mail-in voting. Early voting starts June 13th, and the actual primary date is June 28th this year.
Yep.
But it's important the vote. We need to get a conservative Supreme Court. That'd be the first step in turning Illinois around.
Very good. And so they have to pull a Republican ballot, correct? To vote for Judge Noverini. What are you on the ballot?
There's 4 of us on the ballot currently. I am number 2 on the ballot.
Number 2 for the second
judicial district.
District.
And okay. It's the very end of the ballot. The judges are always at the bottom.
I know,
of the
you're
ballot.
Always at the end. They save the best for last.
Go, because normally there's like a 20% drop off when they get to the judges. So vote all the way down to the bottom of the ballot.
All the way down. Okay, so to vote for Judge Noverini, you ask for the Republican ballot, and at the bottom, Judge Noverini, you are number 2.
Correct.
I don't know if you want to touch on this. We've got a few minutes left before we hit a half hour together. Peace and Grace just asked, how can we keep integrity in elections? I have an answer for that after you, Judge.
Well, you vote. Some people say vote in person. Again, I'm suspect of I'm concerned about the mail-in voting. I was at a meeting in Kendall County. One woman said she got mailed to her 5 applications, and they were mailed to people that lived there 10 years ago. And so she said, what was to prevent me from filling it out and mailing it in and getting 5 ballots?
Right, exactly.
That's the problem.
Right. I think it's important that, number 1, people vote. There's no integrity in not voting, right? Number 1.
Yeah, you need to vote.
Number 2, to be the process, not just watch the process. So I know more than ever, regular people who have never volunteered on Election Day, Judge, are looking to become poll watchers, election judges.
Election judges, correct.
Right. And election judges are really important because, say, for example, you thought you were getting a Republican ballot and you were handed a Democrat. The judge is making sure that everything is as it should be when you check in to go to vote. So sometimes people accidentally get handed the wrong ballot, and we have a closed primary in Illinois. Some people don't know this if you're new to voting, but you have to ask for either a Democrat or Republican ballot. And so it's important to know that based on who you want to vote for. For Judge Noverini, you would pull Republican. But people are becoming part of the process. They're going to be poll watchers. And that's where you find improved integrity. Because I can tell you, I'm a registered Republican. Every time I go to vote, everybody's wearing buttons that say Democrat. And I'm always like, well, hey, they hustle. They get out the vote. They're participating. If you are a conservative, you can't just sit and complain. You got to be part of the process, right? So I think you're seeing more of that shift. And I'm hopeful that it will be reflective of our communities where everybody is engaged in the voter process.
Right. Oh yeah, no, the Democrats have it down pat. I mean, as of a couple of weeks ago, there were 85,000 mail-in applications requested. 75,000 were Democrat, 10,000 were Republican. And it's not good.
They hustle.
Oh.
But you know what? Republicans are typically day of voters.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm hoping that people get their buns out of the house, off the sofa, and get in and rock the vote. Right? Can't keep complaining. We got to be part of the process, and voting is key. So Judge Noverini, you are number 2. And I think this is really enlightening. This is really helpful for us to get more of an understanding of why the Supreme Court is so important, get to learn more about you. And I'll be praying for you and thinking of you as you continue campaigning, but keep us posted on your campaign, and be well. And thanks to everyone who tuned in. Any closing goodbye, Judge?
Nope, just get out there and vote on June 28th.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Judge, you can hang on here, but everybody, thanks for tuning in. This will be shared at our website, at our blog, and at our hub with all of these Convo with candidates. But have a great Wednesday, and thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Thank you, Shannon.